Hi, everyone. This is Matt with ESI Survival Guide. We are a resource to help legal professionals navigate the electronic wilderness. You can check us out here on the YouTube channel, and there's more content on the site, www.esisurvivalguide.com, and on Twitter at eDiscovery Guide and Instagram as ESI Survival Guide. Now, I'm very, very excited about today's guest. Before I introduce her, let me just give you the old disclaimer. So the information provided on this site is for general information purposes only, and the views expressed by myself and those of our guests are those of us only in our individual capacities and not those of our respective employers. And with that, I would like to introduce Maribel Rivera. Maribel, how are you?
I'm great, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing good. And again, I think being in Queens right next to the train tracks, hopefully people can't hear that train over and over again, but it's been a bit of a loud day. But other than that, I'm doing good. My son had his last day of school today.
Oh, that's awesome. I don't have any children in school right now, so I don't have that problem or the joy of saying, hey, they're home for the summer. But I know so many people this week who are excited to have kids home for the summer.
Well, it's funny because my son is so excited to be done with school. I mean, he's going into kindergarten, but he's still excited as any kid would be going into the summer. But what he doesn't realize is I put him in soccer camp and he has to get up earlier in school and he stays longer than he did at school. So like I said during our little pre-interview, by the end of the summer, he'll either love soccer or absolutely hate it. But at least
or you, one or the other. It's either you or soccer. One of something's going to give.
I guess I didn't think about that. So that's good. But Maribel, I'm very glad to have you on the guide today. You're a very, very interesting person. Listen to lots of your interviews and podcasts. You came to the industry in a very interesting way. And the things that you're doing now are very unique. You're one of, I would say, the most prolific change agents in this industry. That I think all of us can learn something from. But if I could, just to give our viewers a little bit of background, most of us know you as the Senior Director of Community Engagement with ACEDS.
Correct.
And you also run Maribel Rivera Marketing and Event Services and do a ton of charity work with life preservers focused on human trafficking, Coalition for the Homeless, the Fearless Network, and other charities. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do with your marketing and events services company and how that dovetails with your work at ACEDS?
So my marketing and events company, I kind of got started in 2014, and I have to thank Beth Finkel, and she's one of the executive directors from Women in eDiscovery. So I left the Cowen Group, and when I left the Cowen Group, I was VP of marketing there. So I took all of my marketing experience, everything I had learned, especially my sales and operations experience. And Beth asked me to help her and Kierstead out at the time as their outside marketing agent. So I came in and I started helping her there, and I was just enjoying it so much. So I started building clientele and providing marketing services. And a lot of it is everything from brand strategy, marketing strategy, event strategy, helping to build their social media presence and digital presence overall. I'm helping to build out marketing teams internally for some of my clients, or I act as their external, right, with some of the people who work for me. Basically, it's overall marketing and events. So everything that you could imagine that somebody, a CMO, right? I'm basically an outside CMO instead of an outside counsel.
Do you find that in the eDiscovery industry and the legal technology industry generally, marketing to be a little more exciting than it might be in other industries? It seems like in this business, there's so much change constantly happening that from a marketing standpoint, you're always having to find new ways to take these new technologies and new service offerings and promote them out to a wider audience that's also always changing. Is that a challenge for you, or is that something that you embrace?
The one challenge a lot of companies have is bringing someone from outside of the industry and teaching them to understand eDiscovery, right? Because even a lot of people in legal don't understand eDiscovery.
Right. A lot of people in eDiscovery don't understand eDiscovery.
Trying to explain it to somebody who does marketing outside of the legal industry, outside of eDiscovery, becomes difficult. So a lot of times it's easier to someone who's been involved in learning eDiscovery over a while and understanding what eDiscovery means is crucial for them so that they can build out those marketing strategies, those go-to marketing plans that they need. I think we are unique as far as the constant updates to the platforms, the constant products that they're releasing, the competition, because we are a unique industry, but there is a lot of competition in, in collections, in processing, and there's a ton of competition there. And I think it's trying to say, how do you differentiate yourself from others in that way? And what I've told a lot of clients is, again, and this is part of who I am, right, is being authentic. What's your voice? What's your vision? What are the things that you're doing? Listening to your clients and their needs. And I think that's something that every marketer everywhere, right? If you're a good marketing person, you do that in any industry. Sure. But it's really important to do it here when you're dealing with stakeholders who are partners, who have an understanding of what they want and who they want to talk to. And also when you have GCs, but you also have the individuals who are using it and the influencers. So you have to know how to cater to all of those different personalities and meet the needs that they have, and how you can market to them, right? What do you need to say that's going to resonate with them in a way that they're going to want to talk to you or look at your software or understand what services you provide?
I was talking to a colleague recently about sales and marketing in this business. And I think one thing that seems unique, and it might just because I'm looking from the inside outward, is the buying population with eDiscovery is so diverse. You have law firm, associates, partners, legal operations. You have procurement at corporations, legal teams at corporations. You have other tech providers, other vendors. It seems like there's so many different folks that are purchasing this or involved in the buying decision, whether it's a C-suite, paralegal, and your messaging is different for each one of those different groups. And then when you look at the broad array of services that are offered, it seems like it can be quite a daunting task to solidify what that messaging is.
Well, that's when you have to really sit down and think about the buyer, right? So this messaging can't be the same for every buyer, for every influencer, for every stakeholder. You've got to sit down and say, okay, this product A is for a specific user, and a specific person that user reports to is going to approve the purchase, right? And be it the GC, or be it a partner, or be it the CEO or the CIO or the CTO. How do you market to those individuals? And each one is going to have their own particular messaging that you have to provide them. And as a salesperson, you have to understand what are their challenges. One of the greatest things is when I talk to salespeople and they're like, I'm just going to tell them why they need me, why they need us, why we're the best. And I'm like, that's not the way to sell. That's just not going to work for them, right? They tell you what they need and you have to listen. And then you have to say either, yes, we can provide those services and this is how we meet that the best way, or the most cost efficient way. It might be more quality instead of cost, or it might be cost and both. But you have to figure out the best way to have that conversation with those individuals.
I can imagine if you're a salesperson focused just on the why, then you should also become really good at facing rejection, because you're probably gonna face a lot of that in your career. But focus on the general. That's really, really helpful, interesting stuff. But I want to focus more on you and what your specific day looks like. So, this morning, between getting my son ready for his last day of school and trying to get a run in before hopping into a bazillion emails, everyone's day looks different. What does a typical day for Maribel Rivera look like? And especially now that we're coming out of at least the pandemic lockdown, is that day changing at all?
Yeah, so during the pandemic, a lot of it changed, right? I'm going to admit I got a little lazy because I was working a lot more than usual. I was working.
Something tells me your laziness is different from what most of us would characterize as being.
I probably anyone who knows me who's watching this is going to be like, she's not lazy. So one of the things I do is first thing in the morning, I'm up probably by 5. Before the pandemic, it was gym. Now that we were in the pandemic, it's kind of like a little lazier. I don't have that time to travel into the city for meetings or go into an office. or travel and out of the state. So a lot of it is I could be a little lazier in the morning, but I really find the time in the morning with my husband to just dedicate time for us to have a nice conversation, to catch up. And that's our time to start the day, right? And I do a little meditation in the morning. So I meditate in the morning. I have a breakfast. I have my coffee. That's how I start my day. I do a little reading as well. So it could be a self-help book, right? Professional development book. It could be a course that I'm trying to get through because I'm continuing my education. I feel like I never can stop learning. There's always something new coming out or something new I can learn from someone. So I'm constantly learning. So the morning time, I find that time. During COVID and before now, I'll start to go back to the gym. But while I was doing that, it's morning workout. So even like a 30-minute workout, 30-minute stretch, yoga, whatever it may be. So finding that 30 minutes to really like focus on my body and getting myself into a good mental state. Because a good workout, a good run, a good like stretch, any of that is a really good way to start the day.
Yeah, it sets you up really well. I used to be a nighttime runner, so I'm a big runner, and I used to run literally after midnight, which in and of itself in New York City is somewhat of an extreme sport. But I've definitely tried to front load it and get it in the mornings when I can, which has been really helpful. The one thing I've been trying to do more of is read, and I mean like read actual books. I've come to become almost hooked on audiobooks. To where for me, reading is probably more of my thing that gets me into a meditative state. A couple pages in, and I just kind of like gloss over. But I'm trying.
Going.
Right? Is there what are you reading now? If you don't mind me asking, any good books recently?
So right now, my main book is I am reading Rita Moreno's biography.
Okay.
And so she is one of my icons since I was a little girl. Since I first saw her in West Side Story, I fell in love with her. So I have been obsessed with Rita Moreno, and she did the remake of One Day at a Time. I don't know. I'm probably a little older than you, so I used to watch One Day at a Time when I was a kid, and they remade it with all Latin cast. So for me, I just like fell in love with her on that show. So I've been reading her biography, and someone else just sent me a book. I forget the name, but I try to read between biographies and then some sci-fi and some fantasy. So I mix it up a little bit just so I'm not always in the let me read a self-improvement professional development book every week. Yeah,
it's easy to get caught up in like reading, at least on my side, case law, whether it's a business development book or something that I have to break out. I'm a big fan of biographies as well, but definitely maybe we'll even post the Audible link to that the book you're reading. It sounds fantastic.
I will send over. This actually, one of the other things I do in the morning is like I try to find interesting articles and read. I've been reading. I know you did a interview with Kelly Twigger, but her case laws. So when they come across, I try to catch up on the case law because it's interesting for me, right, to listen to some of the things that they share as far as case law and sanctions and what all of that means, because I have conversations with lawyers all the time, and I stand there and I'm like, what does that mean? So now I'm getting to know a little bit more of those cases, and even skimming through is helpful. Or reading just reading Entrepreneur in the morning, things like that. Like this morning, I was reading an article about Airbnb has their own like secret agents who get rid of like anything bad. I will send you the article.
Wait, what? You gotta send me that. They gotta have. Do you remember what the title of it is? They gotta have some kind of weird title, right?
I think I have the title. It was really
extraction experts or something.
They're called the Black Box, and it was an Entrepreneur.
They're called the what?
The Black Box. So the name of the article is Airbnb has a secret team for hiding crimes that occur in its accommodations, and this is how they operate.
That's unbelievable. So it's full on Harvey Keitel, the wolf in Pulp Fiction.
They're like everything from like bodies to, I was like, they have, this is like, you remember Pulp Fiction, Harvey Keitel's character?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like the wolf, Harvey Keitel.
That's exactly who it is.
No, but so this is, and look, we can easily get sidetracked on this. So I'm gonna have to bring it back because I could talk about this now for the rest of the podcast. But so wait a second. So only question I'll ask, and then we'll move on. But thank you for this rabbit hole. I now have something to do this evening. Is it full on Harvey Keitel where if I commit a crime, I can call someone and they'll come, or it's after the fact where if someone did something bad and they're gone now and they kind of clean up the.
I think that's what it is. It's after the fact they kind of take.
That is insane.
I will send you the article, but it was interesting. So those are the things that, I find time to do in the morning. So that's my morning, and I'll bring it back for you. Then it's just a slew of, I go over my goal list.
My mind is still kind of blown. And the name, the black box, but being legal tech, that's such a charged word as well. Like, wow. Okay, cool.
Yes, exactly. But it's about, so every day, so Sundays is all about goal lists. So I set up, what's my week look like? What do I have to do? Working through with my team on what's the social media for all of the clients that I'm working with. What do I have to do as far as my social media? And then every day is checking off. These are the things I need to do. This is what I have to accomplish. Who do I have to talk to? Who do I want to follow up with? And of course, one of the important things is touching base with someone I haven't talked to in a while. Like that's a great goal for me on a daily basis is who do I want to just reach out to and say, hey, personally, family, friends, colleagues, what's going on? How are you? How's everything going? And then my day usually goes from like 8 a.m., especially during COVID, to like 8 p.m. And then, of course, I have clients globally, but also with ACEDS, because ACEDS has 27 chapters globally.
Wow. Yep.
And so the timeframes are like, I could be talking to somebody in Australia or Hong Kong or Ireland. So my timeframes really, I could be on a call at 9 or 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, and I want to talk to you about some of those chapter developments. But yeah, same thing over COVID. I've really tried, I always feel guilty when I find myself reaching out to somebody that I haven't spoken to in a while, and it might be for, a favor or some kind of ask or something like that. And I always try and do favors and pay it forward as best I can. But I really also tried to set up a regimen of keeping in touch and cultivating and developing relationships with those people in my life, personal and professional. I always want to make sure that those are being watered, if you will. So that's really good advice. I appreciate that. So thinking again about your day and how you came to the eDiscovery industry, a couple other things before we jump into some of the kind of substantive questions that I really want to ask. You were at Nortel for a while, and between your time at Nortel and then when you went to Merrill, you worked for a hip hop magazine.
Yes.
The music industry is something we have in common. I was in the music business myself for about a decade. But what did you do during that time when you were working for that magazine? And have you ever thought about going back?
No.
Okay.
I love what I do. I love the people in our industry. I think we are such a unique industry of people. So I would not, I mean, unless they're offering me a lot of money, and then, I gotta say goodbye. But
Sure.
yeah. When I was at the Hip Hop magazine, it was a lot of laying out what the magazine looked like, right? So putting it all together, responding to the sponsor ads, who needed to be where, when did they want to schedule for, scheduling some of the interviews with some of the artists, right? A lot of them were up and coming artists. So it was really nice to get to know them. Working through what the shoot schedules were for some of the photos that would be in the magazine.
Oh, cool.
So it was it was very, very different. It was like a 6-month stint where I was sitting at home. I had received a great package from Nortel because they were going through all these layoffs. And I basically had like a year where I didn't have to work. And I am not someone that likes to sit home and do nothing. So it was like, what do I do? And I just by chance was offered the opportunity. So I was like, let me see what it's like. And it was a lot of running their office for them and getting to know a little bit of that that hip hop industry and seeing a lot of the hip hop stars that I grew up with, right? I grew up in that era where hip hop was just starting out. So it was great to see some of those individuals.
And that was that was in Brooklyn?
I was actually in Long Island. So they were in Long Island, New York.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
And for those out there, you're from Brooklyn. I'm going to ask you a question about Brooklyn here in a second. But so this unique path that you've had, how did you come into contact with ACEDS?
I think ACEDS was first, and then Women in eDiscovery was second. But somebody was like, you should go to one of their meetings. So I started attending some of the meetings, and it was great. And then I was asked to sit on the board for the New York City chapter. And so I got involved with the board, and I was there with Brad Chaffel, Joe Bartolo, and a few others. And it was great. We had a terrific time putting together the chapter and running the chapter for a little while. Joe Alonzo. So there were quite a few people that I sat on the board with. And then when Mike Quartararo, I actually did a few things working with Kaylee and Mary. They were absolutely terrific. And then Mike Quartararo, when he was offered the job of president, he's a really good friend, and he reached out to me. You know, I had helped him a lot with starting his consulting firm when he left Strzok, and then with his project management book in electronic discovery. So I helped him with some of that.
Great book.
And I also was brought in by him and Bill Hamilton to help them with the paralegal program and the UF law programs that they were doing at Bryant University and the eDiscovery project at UF Law. So Mike was like, Maribel, I really need somebody to come in, be my right hand and help me with this. I can do it, but I really would like to do it with you next to me. And I was like, I'm happy to do so. So that's how that all happened. And Mike knows I love to network. I love people. I love community. I love building community. So he was like, I want you to run the chapters, the membership, work with our partners.
That's fantastic. Well, definitely that's a who's who of eDiscovery in many regards, with Mike and Bill Hamilton and Kaylee and Mary and the EDRM. And big shout out to Mike. I've been meaning to reach out to him and have him on the guide as well. So that's amazing in terms of how you got involved with ACEDS. I was actually an original item writer on the very first ACEDS certification exam. That's when I learned that sometimes if you're already well-versed in something, it can be really, really difficult to pass a certification exam because you find yourself questioning everything. It's like, here's the question. You're like, well, it depends. You really have to focus on not reading into any of the questions. But no, it's amazing to see how far ACEDS has come in being the benchmark for eDiscovery expertise in the industry. Very, very proud to have that certification. And that's awesome that you've been an integral part of that and continue to be.
It's amazing how many people have the certification, how many people, ACEDS just launched the certification, a Canadian version. It's a beta version, but we have probably about 80 people who registered for that in Canada. And they're looking at expanding the certification in other countries as well, very specific to different countries. So we're excited about the things that are happening there. And we've got Essentials of Information Governance that was added as a training program. And I think Mike is working on a few other things, maybe project management, who knows, that might be one that comes out. So I think ACEDS, we've got a great focus on continuing training, continuing to build all of that. And we're listening to what our members want, right? What our subscribers want, and trying to provide them with all of that education.
Well, the good news is that if you do expand to other countries where it's e-disclosure and not eDiscovery, you don't have to change the acronym. It still fits, right? So,
exactly.
It's perfect.
Very,
well played. So you live in Brooklyn. Before we kind of jump into some more focused questions, as things open back up, I have a couple go-to spots in Brooklyn. I think we've lived in very different parts of Brooklyn, but what are give me two go-to spots?
So my, now that it's summer, my go-to spot is Domino Park. It's about 10 blocks.
Oh, no. Well, I have a picture of it right here with my son. That's the best place. Domino Park's the best. That taco place there is amazing.
It's like the best. So you just hang out. There's water. There's volleyball. There's everything. That is my like Sunday morning to Sunday evening. Just sit out and hang out there. People watch. Read a book.
Maribel, I didn't interrupt you. Literally, when you said Domino Park, my 5-year-old literally just opened the door
He was like, wait, what?
Took his head.
Where are we going?
That's his favorite place to go. But no, continue.
I mean, there's the water sprinklers. I run through them. So I think it's Domino Park is probably one of my favorite places just to go hang out. And then of course there's so many bars, and I live in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. So we have, it's like restaurant, bar, restaurant, bar, restaurant. So I'm like surrounded by, I could walk a block. I'm by Peter Luga's, that's been around for forever. So I am surrounded by bars and restaurants. Probably one of my favorites is a Japanese American fusion sports bar called Fushimi. Yeah.
I used to live over on North 6 on Kent Avenue.
I mean, that's like the perfect spot. Like you can't, there's everything's there. The water's there. The ferry is there to get you everywhere. You can go to 34th Street right from here to Governor's Island. So it's like perfect spot.
Perfect spot on Kent, except the fact that it's like $9,000 a square foot now. But
yeah.
but awesome. So great neighborhood. So